Almost didn't recognize you there, Jim.
How's that?
Right.
No face fungus.
Oh, yeah.
This.
Almost didn't recognize you there, Jim.
How's that?
No face fungus.
Oh, yeah. She
No.
shaved it off at the weekend.
Yeah.
Almost didn't recognize you there, Jim.
How's that?
No face fungus.
Oh, yeah. She shaved it off at the weekend.
Now, are people able to see each other still, even though the share is on?
Yes.
I can
All
see
right.
some, yeah.
All right.
Yep.
I'm going to now.
I have a PowerPoint presentation I've pulled together. I know that I haven't done this before, so how do I get that to come up?
We've got share available for all the participants.
Mhm.
So what you can do is you can share that yourself. If you want to hold on, let me get I've got a update to do for the YouTube.
All right.
And then we can walk through how to do the share.
Great.
I thought you needed the big one.
There we go. The live stream is working on our webpage.
PowerPoint presentation I've pulled together. I know that
Well, Jim, Jim, you're doing the PowerPoint? You're muted right now.
sorry, yes, I am.
Okay. So at the bottom of your of your Zoom window,
Mm-hmm.
do you see a share button?
Yes, I do.
All right. So if you click that, what's going to come up is a dialog, and it's going to show you the various things that you can share, entire screens or application windows. If you launch your PowerPoint and go into this presentation mode, then that's what you could end up using. Are you using one or two screens?
Just using one at the moment because my other one doesn't have a camera.
Yeah. So I believe that if you do a share, let me just test this. I believe if you go into share, if you go into PowerPoint, have your presentation there, but not being presented, then go into share and say share the application. When you click the PowerPoint to be full display, or you can just show from your PowerPoint, not full display, and it will share that.
First, open your PowerPoint so you can see it. Yep.
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 There you go. Now, what you can do is
And
you can click the presentation button and see if that stays as your presentation,
slideshow.
the slideshow. Nope.
Nope.
Over top left, it looks like a TV on a stand, about 5 icons across.
Oh, bottom right corner. You see it looks like a screen. Click on that one. To the left of the slide bar. Yep, that one.
Yep, that'll work too. There you go.
Brilliant.
Yep.
Good. That's how you do it. And then you can go back to the beginning.
I didn't see you showing up yet, Sylvia, as a participant. I saw. Did you click? You're joined as David.
Me?
Yes, you did.
Okay, I'll come back.
No. Don't do that.
Change your name.
No, just change your name, and I'm making you a co-host.
I have like 4 emails.
There we go. That looks good.
Yep. And then you click on stop share for now.
Where's stop share?
Sometime at the top of your screen, you might see a little green something at the button. No. Or the host, I think, can.
Yeah,
Sometimes
I think what I'll
share.
do is I'm going to I'll bring up the banner screen at this point, and that'll switch the share over to me.
Yep.
Thank you. Welcome, Nathan. All right, so far we're cooking. This is excellent. So I have to ask Sylvie, how did Rory do on the first hole? Did you just watch?
Was that as we say in French, le petit point?
All right. I don't have any music to play yet. Sorry. Okay. All right, so Jim, your audio video is working. Chick, your audio and video is working. Jim, you're good for sharing your PowerPoint. And as I've been corresponding with Emily and also with Nathan about if we do have some time some free time, we'll jump to stuff by them. And yes, I'm kicking my butt because why am I not having Emily talk about the Tartan Parade in Scotland and the Global Tartan Network anyways? Duh.
You don't need to hear from me. It's all good. Am I still on introductions, Bill?
That would be wonderful.
No worries.
You have a much sweeter voice than I do.
Different.
And you are more knowledgeable about our lads. So there you go.
Sure. Well, at
And
least we're in the same time zone here, right?
There you go. Yep.
So
Are you in Scotland?
You're muted.
Yep. Are you in Scotland, Emily?
Oh, you know what?
pardon?
Are you in Scotland?
I sure am.
Lucky you.
I know. I've actually been all right here today. But you'll be glad to know I've got my new 50th season Blue Jays shirt. So
Hey.
feeling like I'm with you guys.
Well, I'm hoping we'll see you in July.
Fingers crossed.
Sylvie, I've gone and switched my audio to my headphones. I hope they're working.
Well, I'm not gonna talk.
Okay.
I muted and hidden.
Well, if you turn your audio off, then can you hear it when they talk here?
Yep.
Then why don't I allow you just to hear this? So how are we doing in terms of attendees? We're up to 11 at this point. All right. I didn't get a, oh, there's John McKinnon. There we go. I didn't get a email from Karen, back from Karen with the for the music this morning, but I know that they were off doing a gig. And but they are hoping that they'll be back for just after 3. If they end up having an issue, we have a video to play for them. So that'll be the backup. Onward. Let's check our streaming. I'm and our live stream is up, so that's good. We're up to hello, Dello. Richard Shaw is here.
Hello.
I don't need those. Oh.
Hello.
That's John. I didn't catch who was just speaking at that point.
Cameron Hopkins, I think.
Cameron, you're muted right now if you're talking. But welcome.
Am I on music now?
We can see you and we can hear you. There you go.
Okay. Amazing.
Good afternoon. Andy here.
Hey, hi Andy. How's it going?
Not bad. 1 week after a basement flood.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Is this what the kind of problem we were having? We had to get them to come in and reseal the wall and deal with the side of the house where people had put concrete above the sill of the basement and all of that nonsense? Or just frozen ground.
Too much water coming in and the sump pump couldn't handle it.
Wow.
Yeah. Now I'll mute out.
Now, water finds a way, unfortunately. Well, we ended up having as I claim it is. I'll blether along while we're waiting for other people to show up. We ended up having about 45 people in total register. As to what the total number will get, experience has been is that we get anywhere from a third to 2/3 of people actually showing up. But I know with providing the streaming on YouTube, that we'll end up getting a fair number of people that will go over to that, which is good. We're up to 16 now, so 17.
Hi, hi.
I recognize that voice. It's Stephen.
It's me. It's me. Nice to see you again, Bill. How are you?
Oh, busy, having fun though. Geez.
Well, yeah. I just came back from the Montreal piping breakfast brunch there, so I'm a little tanked. Had a few drinks.
Oh, gets to be a full day already.
Oops. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Steve.
No. Well,
What?
I have to get off because.
I can't access it anyway, because Microsoft Outlook deleted itself, because my 365 account expired.
That's okay, Dave. Man the phone. It never fails. There's always some little technical glitch. Well, we're getting close to starting, and our numbers are coming in well. Excellent. Hello, Terry.
Hi, Bill.
For the other board members, just a heads up, Kirsten got rear-ended yesterday out in Red Deer. So
Oh,
she's
no.
not going to be showing up today. She's got heating pads and is taking, she's okay. She's just a little banged up. And the worst of it is her vehicle. And I said, make sure that you get the frame checked out most of all.
Did you say she was in Red Deer, Bill?
Yeah, Red Deer, Alberta.
Oh, I've been there.
Yeah, that's and the games are one of our members, and that's who she's with. And she's our chair out there, and she visits, and she covers the booth for most of the Western Highland games.
It must be beautiful, Red Deer.
I enjoyed it.
Canada's a beautiful place.
It is.
Well, I think we probably have room for 1 billion more people here, the size of the country.
There wasn't much left.
And eventually the weather will get to the point where we'll be able to support that. A lot of empty space. And eventually the weather will get to the point where we'll be able to support that.
Okay, Bill, I'm moving there.
All right. Well, I'm going to suggest we've got 28 participants at this point. I'm going to suggest that we can advance the slide and give an idea of where we are, what the plan is today. And the plan is we'll kick off with greetings at about 3:10 or whatever. We'll start. Most of the times I put here is a by that time. We know that we should be flexible with regards to how long things run, etc. So by 3:10 we should be talking. We should Jim Miller will kick off with his presentation on the Friends of Arbroath, and then by 3 o'clock, and we'll have a Q&A after that. And following this slide, I'll put up a protocol slide for the Q&A, etc. By 4 o'clock, musical interlude, thanks to our friends from the Atlantic Firth Scottish Dance Band, who looked like they got back no problem from their gig. That's Karen Stephen over that you see. And 4:30, Clan Grand Charles, Chick. Chick, I'm assuming that's what we want to call you, Chick. Correct? On his Clan Grant presentation, following by Q&A. And I've left it as open forum, and there's a number of things. Emily has graciously offered to speak with regards to the Tartan Day Parade in Scotland, which we all want to win the lottery and go to, for those of us that aren't in Scotland or not going to be there at the time. And we can get some information from Nathan about a couple of the projects, initiatives that he's driving, which is the Clan Conveners Society and the youth initiative as far as athletics go, which is going to be pretty exciting, as well as the kitty corner. I don't want to say kitty corner, the thing for the youth in our upcoming newsletter. So I do have a feedback survey. I had set it up as a at the end of the session. The problem is that people leave before the end of the session, and we've seen inconsistencies with Zoom in terms of who gets to have that survey. If you're not there when the session ends, it seems as if you don't get it. So I'm going to put it up as a poll at the end instead of the survey. If you end up getting it twice, just ignore the second one, right? I sound like I'm good with technology, but I still get baffled quite often by what it's going to do. So on that note, I'm going to just check to see, make sure everybody's good with where we are at this point, and hand it over to Emily, who is taking care of introductions for us. And by the way, Emily has been the prime driver and originator of the concept and ideas for this. So, and thank goodness, because otherwise it wouldn't have gotten done. Thank you, Emily. Go ahead.
Yeah, of course, no problem at all. So yeah, firstly, it's my pleasure to introduce Jim Miller, whose career brings together history, storytelling, and international collaboration, which is, of course, what Scots of Canada is all about. A former monument manager of Arbroath Abbey, Jim holds degrees from both the University of Aberdeen and the University of Stirling, specialising in medieval and early modern Scottish and European history. Alongside his academic background, Jim has enjoyed a distinguished career in journalism and politics. He served as a political affairs editor and spent 17 years working with the Scottish Parliament. Jim's work promoting Scotland on the international stage has earned him notable recognition, including 2 commendations from the Government of Japan and the honour of being commissioned as a Kentucky Colonel, which I want to hear more about. More recently, has turned his talents to the world of whisky, leading the creation of the Glover, the world's first fusion of Scottish and Japanese drams, and continuing to develop an innovative and international whisky collaborations. So before I hand over to Jim, just a bit of a background on why we thought we should get the Friends of Arbroath Abbey involved today. So, as you know, National Tartan Day is celebrated across North America on the 6th of April. Sparked off in Nova Scotia back in the 80s and has continued to grow since then. And all of that stems back to us celebrating when the Declaration of Arbroath was signed. So that was back in 1320. And on Monday...
Chick cannot hear us.
Oh. Chick can't hear us. Could everyone else hear okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, on Monday, in Arbroath itself, I headed up north. So I'm based in the southeast of Scotland, headed up to Arbroath for the Declaration Day event and the parade through the town from the Abbey down to the harbour. But I'm sure Jim will tell us more about what that day involved. So I'll hand over to you if that's okay, Jim.
Thank you very much, Emily, and thank you for the invitation to come and speak today. Going to go through the torturous process of trying to share my screen, and I may need Bill to help me on this. Is that it?
All right. So, Jim, do you have PowerPoint open?
Yes, it's. Are you not seeing my screen?
No. Let's do this. So if you go to share, do you see the dialog come up and you see entire screen in application windows? If you click the share button at the bottom.
Sorry, we had this before, but it worked.
At the very bottom of your screen, you should see share. Of your Zoom screen, you should see share.
No.
Do you see any icons at the bottom when you move your mouse down?
I actually can't. Hang on. Right. I think.
There we go. All right. So now if you bring up your PowerPoint presentation and then click the slideshow icon, one of the slideshow icons, bottom left or top right, bottom right or top left.
Is that it?
Yeah, there you go.
Bingo. Right, I'm really sorry for the delay there. Sorry?
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak today. I've been asked to talk about Arbroath Abbey and the Declaration of Arbroath. In doing so, I'd like to make the case that the earliest origin of the Declaration of Arbroath does not lie in the wars of independence that began following the succession crisis caused by the death of Alexander III in 1286 and his granddaughter Margaret in 1290. Instead, I'll argue that poor decision-making by an earlier monarch, King William the Lion, led to catastrophic consequences for his reign, which ended in 1214, and for Scotland as a whole in the late 13th and 14th centuries. It is perhaps a fascinating example of synchronicity in this incredible series of events that William's decision to found Arbroath Abbey would create the very setting for the Declaration of Arbroath in the 14th century. So I'd like to go back to France and England in the late 12th century to begin the story. On the 29th of December, 1170, 4 armoured knights and heavily armed Norman knights burst into Canterbury Cathedral and brutally murdered Thomas Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury. The ferocity of the attack bringing death to England's most senior clergyman in a holy place, and apparently on the command of King Henry II of England, sent shockwaves throughout Europe and beyond. Becket has been described by the British Museum as one of the most influential figures in medieval Europe. Born in England, Becket's parents were Norman and successful business operators. Despite not being of the nobility, Becket was educated and enjoyed an almost stratospheric career, bringing him to the attention of King Henry II, who appointed him as Chancellor of England. The pair became close friends, and Becket became a trusted advisor to Henry, including going into battle against the French. Becket was also a good friend and perhaps advisor to King William the Lion of Scotland. But from Henry's parent point of view, a significant fly in the ointment was the church. It's perhaps difficult, I think, for us today to appreciate just how powerful and influential the church was in medieval Europe. Its influence knew no borders, and when kings could not agree, it was the papacy that could mediate and bring peace. This level of alternative power operating in Henry's own kingdom brought him into repeated conflict with the church, and when the Archbishop of Canterbury died, Henry seized the opportunity to replace him with his own man and Chancellor, Thomas Becket. It was a sound plan, but went sour very quickly. On his appointment, Becket, a man who had fitted well with the lavish lifestyle of the royal court and who made very good use of the funds that were available to him, suddenly adopted a position of austerity and piety. Instead of siding with his former master, Becket chose instead to champion the church and defended its rights and legal power. The relationship between the two plummeted to the point that Becket fled to France, but on his return, the relationship got even worse. In addition, the relationship between Henry and William the Lion was not a good one, and is best summed up in a letter from John of Salisbury. In it, he says, "On a certain day when King Henry was at Caen, and he was eagerly conducting the affair he had with the King of Scotland, he broke out in insulting language against Richard de James, who seemed to be speaking to some extent in the King of Scotland's favour. And the king, roused to his usual fury, flung off his cap from his head, put off his belt, threw far from him the mantle and clothes that he had on, removed with his own hands the silken coverlet that was over the couch, and sitting as it were in a manure heap, began to chew the stalks of straw." Another outburst by Henry would spell the end for Becket. Legend has it that Henry, his temper as explosive as Becket's, shouted, "Who will rid me of this turbulent priest?" It sealed Becket's fate, and he was murdered just days later in Canterbury Cathedral in front of a number of witnesses whose testimonies make the event one of the most well-documented incidents in medieval history. But power can be won or lost by the sword, and Henry's own family rebelled against him in the Great Revolt of 1173. In Scotland, a young and ambitious King William watched events unfold. Henry's son offered William lands and titles in the north of England if William would side with the rebellion. William, who knew both Henry and Becket, offered to support Henry if he would grant the lands in England he wanted and felt entitled to. Henry declined, and William raised an army, some of it from my own home area of Angus, and invaded the northern tip of Henry's immense empire, which was not just England. It actually was an empire, thanks to a good choice in marriage. His empire ran from the Scottish border all the way to the Mediterranean. William's army headed south in the campaigning season of 1174, and William, keen to show his bravery and chivalric ideals, initially made good progress. Henry, facing an invasion from the north and rebellion by his own sons, his wife, and allies from the south, was in a difficult position, and divine intervention was required. Henry travelled to Canterbury from France to make penance for his alleged involvement in the murder of Becket, who had been made a saint in 1173, and prayed in front of Becket's tomb for a day and night, and was whipped by monks for good measure. In the north, William was laying siege to Alnwick Castle in Northumberland. His campaign did not benefit from well-made plans. William's army was too small for an invasion of this scale. His supply lines were inadequate, and he didn't bring any siege engines with him. To make matters worse, he split up his forces into smaller groups in a bid to maximize the amount of destruction, but was cut off from his army and captured. It is said that William was captured at the very moment Henry rose from praying at Becket's tomb. Both Henry and William were convinced that St. Thomas had intervened in favour of Henry. Scotland would have a high price to pay for William's adventures. Taken to France, tied to his horse, William would eventually sign the punitive Treaty of Falaise. Among other things, this required William to sign over key Scottish castles, including Edinburgh, to Henry and pay for their garrisons. In addition, Henry demanded more than 20 hostages, including William's brother and the Earl of Angus. It also gave the Church in England authority over the Church in Scotland, while Henry retained the right to choose a wife for William. But worst of all, for the first time in writing, a Scottish king, his heirs and successors, was obliged to pay homage for his kingdom to an English king. Released from captivity, William returned to Scotland. In the intervening period, since the murder of Becket, a religious cult that venerated him had grown and spread across Europe and the Holy Land. Miracles were attributed to him by pilgrims who visited the tomb, and Henry had faced widespread condemnation for the slaying. William, with English forces garrisoned the lowlands and paid for by his own purse, focused his attentions further north, staying at royal residences, including Forfar and Perth. In 1178, William decided to found a new abbey, and Arbroath was the chosen location. Perhaps as a snub to his former captor or in genuine veneration, William chose to build the abbey in honour of Thomas Becket, who by now was seen by commoners and nobles alike as a model of opposition to unbridled power. In choosing Benedictine monks from the Tyrrhensian order to build and populate the abbey, William was following the example of his grandfather David I, who brought Tyrrhensian monks known for their distinctive grey habits from France when he founded Selkirk and then Kelso abbeys in the Scottish borders. The Tyrrhensians were an excellent choice. Founded by Bernard of Tyrone, the order was well known for their trading abilities and production of goods. If William wanted to move his economy forward, then the Grey monks were ideally placed to support that. His initial endowments were beyond generous to the abbey.
Jim, do you need to forward your...
I just did. Foundation grants. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. His initial endowments were beyond generous, and the abbey had houses, land, and churches, along with rights and privileges that made it an extremely wealthy and powerful abbey. For example, the abbey had the right to hold a weekly market and to construct a harbour. Although the harbour wasn't built until the late 14th century, it would see both local and continental trade. William also gave the abbey rights of regality, which meant its court had civil and criminal jurisdiction. And you may be surprised to know that this power also included the power to impose capital punishment and even trial by combat. It's worth noting that any time someone was subjected to capital punishment, the abbey benefited financially by taking that individual's possessions. In time, William's generous endowments of land, privilege, and authority to the abbey would increase greatly through further grants by the nobility and the merchant classes. In one case, Gilchrist, Earl of Angus, in a sign of absolute contrition, would also bestow lands and revenues to the abbey to atone for a major crime he committed. Although accounts differ, Gilchrist, in a fit of jealous rage, murdered his wife before fleeing to England with his 2 sons. That's bad enough, but he was actually married to William's sister. And when news of the murder reached William, he gathered his troops, travelled to Gilchrist's castle near Dundee, and torched it along with various other buildings belonging to the Earl. Years later, Gilchrist and his sons returned from England and lived as outlaws until they came to the attention of the king. Gilchrist and his sons are said to have prostrated themselves before the king and begged forgiveness. The king did indeed forgive the earl and restored his lands to him, and Gilchrist then made several large endowments from this to the abbey. In time, Gilchrist and his sons would themselves be interned in the abbey, with contemporary sources suggesting their burial plots are beneath the remaining transept, close to William's own grave. And I'm not going to dwell on this part for very long, because I know that you're going to be discussing this on another occasion. But around 33 years after the foundation of the abbey, William gave the Monymusk reliquary into the safekeeping of the abbey. Said to contain a relic of St. Columba, the abbot was responsible for carrying the reliquary when the Scots went into major battle. And Abbot Bernard is said to have carried it at the Battle of Bannockburn, when Bruce so soundly defeated Edward II. There is a replica of it available to see in Arbroath Abbey Visitor Centre, but the actual reliquary is now on display at the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. But these days the museum is a little cagey about whether it is the actual one. William also sought to get out of the Treaty of Fally, but Henry was unforgiving and was having none of it. The complete breakdown, it wasn't until Richard le Lionheart took the throne in England, who's Henry's third son, that William was finally able to have the treaty revoked. In exchange for 10,000 merks sterling, which Richard badly needed to fund his ambitious crusade. And in 1189, Scotland was no longer in the fealty of England, and William had his nation back. But the Treaty of Fally would come back to haunt Scotland. William reigned for almost 49 years until his death at 1214 at Stirling Castle. His body was taken to Arbroath, where he was interned in the abbey, which was still undergoing construction. He had matured into a highly regarded king, and his loss was keenly felt. So we'll now fast forward a little to the late 12th century and the deaths of Alexander III and his granddaughter Margaret, which we touched on before, and the next step towards the declaration of Arbroath. Without a clear successor, Edward I of England seized the opportunity to fill the power void, and in doing so, he relied heavily on the Treaty of Fally as justification for his actions. In 1296, Edward embarks on a brutal military campaign in Scotland, reaching as far as Elgin. Leaving English officials in charge, he returns to England, but in Scotland, his officials meet increasingly stiff resistance, most notably by William Wallace. Bruce is crowned king, and war continues. In 1314, he routs the English army, but the decisive victory still does not bring peace. And so on April the 6th, 1320, a letter is sent to the Pope at Avignon. Beautifully composed in Latin, it is hailed as a masterpiece of medieval statesmanship and is now known as the Declaration of Arbroath. It is a document that made the case for Scottish sovereignty. Written on behalf of the barons of Scotland, it begins with a somewhat fanciful origin story of the Scots, claiming that we originally came from Scythia, travelled through Europe, and eventually settled in Scotland. While origin stories for nations are not unusual at this time, this one emphasises that Scotland had always been an independent nation. It then presents a fairly simplified outline of the ongoing conflict with England, portraying the Scots as defenders of freedom against the brutal oppression of Edward. It also makes a case for Robert Bruce, who had been excommunicated for committing murder in a church, to be recognised as King of Scots. I think the crucial part of this, and indeed the whole document, is that the support for Bruce, or indeed any monarch of the Scots, is not unconditional. it is very clear that a failure to act in the interests of his subjects would see him ousted and replaced by someone who would do the job. It is arguably a very early expression of democracy. Of course, this democracy would not extend to the common people, but it is there and has been remarked upon across the intervening 7 centuries. It also asks Pope John XXII to recognise Scotland's independence and put an end to the war. Of course, the most famous part of the document, reproduced on everything from t-shirts to fridge magnets, is, "For so long as but 100 of us remain alive, never will we on any conditions be brought under English rule. For it is not for glory, nor riches, nor honours that we are fighting, but for freedom alone, which no honest man gives up but with his life." To me, it is not just the coherent argument and passionate language used in the Declaration that is important. It is the fact that war-torn Scotland was more than capable of presenting its case on the international stage at the highest diplomatic levels. There is, I think, still a lot of research to be done on the Declaration and the events around it, but it remains a significant symbol of Scottish identity, and its message of standing up to tyranny and the ability to remove a ruler are of universal interest. I'd now like to turn back to the Abbey itself. There are any number of stories and legends about the Abbey, but perhaps the best known one is the part it played in giving Arbroath residents, and indeed their football team, the nickname of the Red Lichties. This, as you can see, is the round O. It's a circular window right at the highest point there. It's an iconic landmark, but when the Abbey was fully functioning, it was a type of window known as an oculus and dedicated to St. Catherine, and an altar dedicated to her was also below it. Legend has it that each night the abbot would climb the staircase and leave a lamp burning in the window to help safely guide mariners to port. The light shining red through the stained glass window is how Arbroathians got the Red Lichty name. And the abbot most associated with this story is Abbot John Geddy. Geddy was a hugely effective administrator who recognised the potential for the Abbey to deliver economic growth, not just for the area, but for Scotland as a whole. Although the right to build a harbour at Arbroath had been granted in 1178, it was Geddy who had the first harbour constructed to boost domestic and international trade in the 1390s, providing the Abbey with another revenue stream. Geddy is also associated with another important local story. He is credited with ordering a wooden raft be constructed supporting a large bell, which was then chained to a notorious reef off the coast of Arbroath, which had claimed a significant number of ships. The movement of the sea caused the bell to sound a warning to mariners, and the reef became known as the Bell Rock. The image on the right there is a 19th century painting of how it was imagined to have looked like. Legend has it that a ship's captain fell out with Geddy, and on leaving port, the captain had the bell cut loose. In time, the captain returned to Arbroath, and with no warning bell, he was shipwrecked in foul weather on the reef and drowned. Today, of course, the reef is home to the famous Bell Rock Lighthouse, built by Stevenson and considered to be one of the 7 wonders of the industrial world, and it's absolutely well worth a visit. I'd like to keep the Geddy theme going and turn to the management of the Abbey itself. And in doing so, I think it's tempting, to believe the monks lived a harmonious existence with each other and observing their oath of poverty, chastity, and obedience as outlined in the Rule of St. Benedict. But human nature is what it is, and being part of Scotland's richest monastery brought temptation, jealousy, and jostling for position. So I'd like to give an example of how this manifested itself when conflict arose between Abbot Geddy and his second in command, Prior Walter Paneter. Geddy had been abbot for quite some time, and it would seem Panatar was getting impatient for a shot at the top job and went on manoeuvres. Panatar is an interesting character who may have been a local man to the area. He was well connected and claimed to be of noble birth and was educated in Paris and elsewhere. Things came to a head in 1405 when Pope Benedict XIII ordered the Bishop of Glasgow to summon Geddy to answer a number of charges against them. These charges being allegations made by Panatar himself and a number of other monks. Just as in modern politics, these things always involve a group of conspirators or associates. It was alleged that Geddy, whilst a monk at the abbey, had lived with a married woman in adultery and apostasy, and had worn secular dress rather than his official monastic clothing, going against church law. The report continued that Geddy had been found out and subsequently did public penance outside the gates of the abbey. Panatar argued he was only bringing these charges now because the events had taken place before Panatar himself had become a monk and was therefore unaware of them. It seems that these issues had been conveniently forgotten and Geddy was ultimately appointed abbot. However, the allegations continued in a quite outlandish way. Geddy was also accused of an inappropriate relationship with his own daughter and other women, resulting in several children, as well as appropriating abbey goods such as cattle and corn for his own use. The case dragged on from months to years, and in the meantime Geddy sacked Panatar as prior, despite the fact that Panatar himself had the very clear support of the king. Ultimately, Geddy died around 1410 and Panatar was finally appointed to the role of abbot, the role that he had so desperately craved all these years. In concluding today's presentation, I'd like to touch on the recognition of the declaration locally. In 2016, after a lengthy local campaign, UNESCO awarded the declaration Memory of the World status. It was a significant victory for local campaigners. While the celebrations in Arbroath don't match the scale of those in New York, Arbroath has celebrated this iconic document and its links to our town for many years. People from all walks of life would come together to deliver a reenactment of the signing. Dramatic lighting, a substantial cast, colourful costumes, and the performance being held inside the ruins of the abbey made it an incredibly atmospheric experience for all. Begun in the 1940s to raise money for troops stationed overseas, the Arbroath Abbey pageant was held periodically until 2005. The image that you see on your left is one taken from the 1948 pageant. And you can see the crowds that have gathered to see this fabulous procession. The image on your right is perhaps the best known Robert the Bruce, who took part in the pageant. And the reason I have this photo is because that's my late mother on the left. I'm not saying that was 1948, but it certainly was a while. So on the left there, you'll see I'm holding the lion rampant. The chap in the middle is sadly passed on member of the Scottish Parliament. He launched the campaign to get UNESCO recognition. Picture in the centre is myself and a local journalist for many years, an editor, Ian Lamb, inside the Abbey, and the Arbroath Abbey pageant on the right-hand side, the programme. That photograph was actually turned into quite a really interesting painting. So people from Arbroath have also gone elsewhere to support other celebrations of the Declaration. The one on the left is Aberdeen. The one on the right is actually Arbroath, and that was again from the launch of the campaign. So in conclusion, since April the 6th has been marked in different ways, most recently by the Friends of Arbroath Abbey, who organise an inclusive and free event open to all. Arbroath will continue to showcase its amazing role in Scottish history, Fact is, we are just a 90-minute drive from Edinburgh, and I do hope if you visit Scotland, you'll come and share the rich history of the town. And in this last photograph, it's myself and the Royal Herald with the other thing that Arbroath is very, very famous for is smoked haddock called Arbroath Smokies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jim. Fantastic. We have time for question and Q&A, and if I know I did muck up right away with not showing the protocol screen, but the thing to do is that if you have questions for Jim, please feel free to enter those into the chat window, if everybody can see that. And Emily, are you able to see the chat if you want to continue taking care of that?
Sure, no problem.
Charles, do you have a question? Your hand is up. Well, I've got a comment. One of the things that I've thought of with all of the stuff going on with Arbroath, I'm surprised that there hasn't been something along the lines of Carmina Burana written about what must be all of the interesting writings that are in place by the monks and by its history. There has to be a good opportunity for some music and other art that's about.
It does. It has generated a fabulous tapestry that was produced locally and tells various aspects of Arbroath's story, and it has been exceptionally well received. It tells a fabulous story as well. In addition, there are paintings about the Declaration, poems. It continues to inspire artists of many different mediums, and we want to keep that going.
If somebody goes and visits, what would be the best plan of attack? Are there commercial tours? Are there curated tours? Is there a visitor center that you would say, hey, go to this first?
There is a visitor center. It's very good. There's lots to see in there. If I'm in Arbroath and you're in town, give me a shout, and I will happily take you around the Abbey myself, because that's what I used to do, and I thoroughly enjoy that. But go and visit the visitor centre, but read up before you go, because on one hand, the physical structure of the Abbey is not quite what it is. It's clearly not what it was, and because it's undergoing quite a lot of repair, there's bits of it you can't get into either. But I think the thing that strikes me, and I saw someone else saying it on Facebook, is going into the Abbey. It's in the middle of a very busy town, but the sense of peace and calm and silence that you get from just being inside that magnificent ruin is worth its weight in gold. It really is.
Are we going to see ghosts?
Yeah. Oh God, yes. I tell you, I mean, when I worked there, I mean, I get asked this quite a lot. And in the winter months, locking up the Abbey was really quite a frightening thing. Now, there are lots and lots of different ghost stories around the Abbey, some of which are sightings of monks. The last abbot, Cardinal Beaton, who was brutally murdered in St Andrews, he's said to haunt Arbroath Abbey. But the place that I always hated locking up was the abbot's house. The abbot's house is one of the best in Scotland, best surviving medieval houses in Scotland. But there are times in the abbot's house and various other places you would actually see people at windows, or you would see somebody on stairs just out of the corner of your eye, and you think somebody sneaked in without paying. And when you go and look for it, there's nobody there, and there's only one way in and one way out. So whoever it was that's appearing at the Abbot's house windows, or who is in the transept stairways, as I say, which only one way in or out, it certainly wasn't a visitor. So yes, you'll experience something if you're lucky.
Awesome. How many days would you say somebody should properly dedicate to the visit?
You only need one day. You need a few hours. A couple of hours is plenty to see the physical aspects of the abbey. But there are, as I say, there are some great interpretation in the visitor centre. There's a copy of the Declaration of Arbroath. There's pieces of stone, carved stone. There's lots to see there. But there's lots to see in Arbroath and the surrounding areas as well. It's not on the tourist path, but it's well worth taking a detour to come and see us.
Okay. Any other questions or that we're getting from people? I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, I've not seen any in the chat.
Emily, moving on to just during the time that Karen is going to be playing with Karen and the Atlantic Firth people are going to be playing. I think we want to try to see what's going on with Charles, because he put up a sign saying he couldn't hear us.
I sent him instructions.
Okay.
Oh, perfect. Meantime, John has popped a question in asking when did the abbey fall into ruin?
Well, that's a good question. The Reformation occurred around 1530, and the saying of Mass was forbidden. And initially, nothing much happened. The monks, some of them decided to just stay, and they lived out the rest of their lives there. And it was only when, after that, some of the buildings of the abbey were actually leased. So some of it was used as a wood store by a businessman. Some other bits were leased for other commercial uses. So instead of these religious uses, they were used for more practical purposes. And it wasn't until permission was granted to knock down a significant part of the abbey to build another church that it really started to go downhill. And late 18th century, I think, if you looked at it around then, you would see as much of it as you would see now. In the intervening period, they started to shore it up, started to realize what they had. By then, so much damage had been done, but there's still enough there to give you a great idea of what's there. So that's 1530 was the start, slid into ruin, gained momentum, quarried for stone for other purposes. The church, people were stealing it for their houses. People were buying it so that they didn't have to buy other stone. So it's a tragic story, really, but I'm glad that the abbey is still cared for now and is still shored up, and it will be available for future generations.
Right.
None of this. Yeah, I was just going to say, none of this nonsense that I've heard. I know I heard it a long time ago, but I heard it again recently, that people take the roof off of monuments or old structures so that they don't have to pay taxes in the UK.
Yes, that's very true.
It's insane.
It's not the case now, I don't think. But there was a rash of castles, stately homes, all had the roof taken off to avoid tax. And with the rain getting in, with the elements being what they are, these places fall into chronic disrepair very, very quickly. That's not what happened in Arbroath as such. It wasn't a tax dodge. People were just looting the stone for for building their own project.
Sorry,
And if
go
you
ahead,
go-
Emily.
Yeah,
If
I
you
was
go-
just going to say, Jim, you mentioned how closely surrounded it is by the town, and I suppose I had been in Arbroath previously, but until coming to the event on Monday, hadn't quite appreciated, yeah, just how close it is to the high street and how much has been built up around that. So, yeah, it's so interesting to see a building of that kind of historic nature being just kind of built around.
Well, I mean, it's kind of worse than that, Emily, because in a report of 1517, the abbey is described as having many beautiful gardens, this, that, the next thing, had buildings and things going on there. So the border of the wall is actually down the high street that you were there. You
Yeah.
come to a big church, and that's the furthest part. The actual precinct of the abbey was really substantial around the 12th century, and that doesn't include all the buildings that the abbey owned in the town from which they were able to get rents from to pay for specific things. So there was one house in a street called Seagate, and the property from that paid for candles to illuminate the altar of St. Mary. And so you can tie in a specific location with funds dedicated to a specific purpose like that. It's really quite fascinating.
Yeah. Another question from John was, is it looked after by the National Trust of Scotland?
No, it is looked after by Historic Scotland, or as it's now called, Historic Environment Scotland. NTS has a different operating model. Scottish Historic Environment Scotland is a department of the Scottish Government. So it has actually a minister in charge of overseeing Scotland's built heritage like that.
And then when did the Friends of Arbroath Abbey come to be?
Just 2 or 3 years ago. It's groups emerge and then they fall away. The pageant society is no longer going, and the Friends of Arbroath Abbey kind of came into being. They have a slightly different ethos than previous groups, I would say. Their focus is on restoring pride in Arbroath, with the Arbroath Abbey as the focus. And they're very, very keen on making it absolutely inclusive to everyone, making it free. Activities are free for everybody. So my own role in there is just the history stuff. I just do the history stuff for them. They do the organizing of events that they do so very, very well, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because after the parade on Monday, there was a large kind of family fun day open day, with it being Easter Monday. So where
And they want to build on that. You know, they want to build on that. They believe the events were going to be becoming more and more polished, and they're going to hopefully get more resource. But you know, something that I maybe find just a little bit galling is the amount of politicians from Scotland who jet off to New York to take part in Tartan Day there, when an hour and a half up the road, that's what it's all about. That's where all this started, the declaration of Arbroath Abbey, and all these kind of things. Instead of shoveling all our politicians onto a plane and off to a jolly in New York, then let's try and get these politicians to get more people from abroad to come to Scotland instead, and be in the actual place where it all began.
I think the way to get them there would be to have a model of 42nd Street up in Arbroath.
I wouldn't be holding my breath for that.
Well, one of the things that the state of the Abbey, one of the things I'm curious about is something that we see go on here is recognition that some old structures cannot be kept as they are or restored. So what they do is they build something new that it's integrated into. They'll maintain the facade, and they'll attach a museum to it, and make it a part of a major showpiece, but then also provide some utility in that for it in another way. Now, unfortunately, that means that there's aspects of commercialization and so forth. But I'm wondering, is that something that happens, period, in Scotland? And two, what are the thoughts of people with regards to that?
Well, that is an excellent question, and I'll tell you why. It's because there is a move in historic Scotland. They've been floating the idea that not all monuments can be kept as they are. The funds aren't there, so they're having to look at which ones are just neglected and left to fall apart in their own way in the fullness of time. Clearly, the issue that you have there is like places like Arbroath and other places, they're hugely attached to the monuments that are in their communities because they're aware of the history of it and its importance. So they don't want to see their built environment, this historic built environment, simply left to crumble away for lack of funds. So that's a discussion that we're having at the moment. And how it will end up, I don't know. But if they don't come up with the money to save some of these monuments, they're going to have to decide which ones they walk away from and which ones they save.
They put to the curb. It's the same problem with the Church of Scotland in terms of the number of and what churches in Scotland do not have history and are not monuments in some way or another.
And many of them have war memorials in them as well.
Yeah.
So what do you do with these war memorials in these churches? So there's a lot of discussion to be had. It's quite emotive, but historic environment Scotland, I think, can be they make the right noises, but they can be quite belligerent as well. So there's going to be winners and losers.
There's the Scots for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true, actually. Yeah.
We've got another question from Scott McDougall saying the Declaration of Arbroath was sent to gain support for recognising Robert Bruce as rightful king. Can you tell us what response it received after it was delivered?
Well, I would say initially deafening silence. There was 3 individuals took the Declaration of Arbroath to the Papal Court at Avignon, where the Pope was at that time. John the 22nd was the Pope who received it, and John was far more interested, I would say, in everything else that was going on. Him trying to keep things together. There were crusades to fund, crusades to fight, and people just generally up in arms. It did work eventually. I mean, Robert the Bruce had been excommunicated, as I said, from the church. I mean, that's nothing in comparison to William the Lion. He'd been excommunicated. He'd fallen out with 5 successive popes, been excommunicated himself, and the whole of Scotland got excommunicated at the same time. So it's quite an achievement for the man. But Robert the Bruce, the Declaration did smooth the relationship between the papacy and Bruce. And 8 years later, right at the end of Bruce's life, he was recognised as king. So it was a long, long slog. But I would say John the 22nd was probably more favoured towards the English than he was the Scots. An interesting fact about John the 22nd, if you like the wine Chateauneuf de Pape, it was John the 22nd who essentially made it the go-to wine to have and managed to make an absolute fortune because Chateauneuf de Pape was owned by the papacy. And that's why it has a cross keys and abbot's accoutrement on every single bottle. And he made it so desirable that the very best courts in Europe were buying it at inflated prices, and he and the papacy were making huge sums of money. So there's 2 things I like about that period. One is Chateauneuf de Pape, and the second is the fact that we got there in the end.
Excellent. Emily, you think we're done?
I think so.
All right. At this point, though, I think what I'll do is I'll hand things over to Karen. I'll ask her to unmute. And I'm not seeing them up on the screen. Let's see. There we go. There's Karen. Karen. I guess I'll take over the introductions. I think Karen.
We're suffering with quite a bad connection here.
We can hear you. You're kind of breaking up, right? And we've lost your video. Oh, you.
Our end, it's been since the beginning of yeah. Are you hearing us now? Hearing connected on the phone, is that working?
It was just YouTube listening. I was just listening.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'll
I
switch
think
on to YouTube to listen. But the connection is intermittent for us.
yeah, it's saying your bandwidth is very low. So Karen, what do you think if what I do is if I queue up
anything to do with
what works is if she shuts off her video, it'll give the bandwidth to the speaking.
Yeah.
Using
Thank you, Rory.
Wi-Fi and
So, well, I think the bandwidth problem is on Karen's connection, and we do have a backup for that, which I'm going to check with Karen.
If you're able to play,
I'll play the video. All right, so
I'm sure if you're hearing, but yeah, going. Now. Yeah, why don't you play the video? And Alistair's going to try and connect on his laptop and see if that's any better.
All right. So in the meantime, what I'll do is while she's disconnecting and reconnecting, I'll queue up the video, and we'll play that. So give me a moment, please, people. Let's see. Share. There. And I believe I'm going to share sound. And I'm going to look for something in the chat very quickly to say that people can see and hear. Can you hear them, Sylvie?
Nope.
Well, why don't I first do this, then do that, say play.
Yeah, it's good.
What's the quality of the song?
and Stephen, and this is Alistair MacDonald. You'll detect a bit of an accent. Yeah, we're from Scotland, the very far north. Any further north and you will get wet. Hopefully the vocals are coming through clearly on the camera. And yeah, we're from
Sounds
Caithness.
low.
Alistair's from Wicker originally.
Their volume is low.
That first set there, the first tune in the set, comes from Caithness, and Alistair will tell you all about the tunes.
Yeah, that was written by Addy Harper from Wick, who led the Wick Scottish Dance Band for many years, and it was called The Garden of Skye. And then the second tune we played there was The Yellow Corn. And the third tune finishing that set was a tune of my own. It's written for my mum and dad on their golden wedding anniversary, and it's called Sandy and Ethel MacDonald's Golden Wedding March. So hope you enjoyed these tunes.
Do you remember, Alistair? We were in Ohio at the Highland Games. Well, a couple of times, 2025, 24, and the mass bands were parading through the village, and they were playing The Garden of Skye, so that was incredible, all the way over there in the USA. And also at the changing of the guard, we've heard the tune in Ottawa, just walking down the street, and we hear this tune from Wick, composed actually by Alistair's teacher, who was a fiddle player. Taught Alistair to play the accordion, talented guy. So now, what's up? The Nesboth and a set of jigs. So that last set was for Agate Gordon's Ceilidh dance. This next one would be for Strip the Willow.
Or Military Two-Step.
Military Two-Step. Lots of Ceilidh dances, so this is a jig. So if you have a little bit of floor space there and you're a dancer and you feel inspired, then go for it.
And the first one, Nesbothan, is one of Fergie MacDonald's. We call Fergie the Ceilidh King in Scotland. This is one of Fergie's early compositions, Nesbothan.
After 4, 2, 3, 4. Celebrating St. Patrick's Day as well, the patron saint of Ireland, back there 17th of March, and today it's the 6th, I think, of 6th of April, and Tartan Day celebrations all around. So we play with a band called, our own band, the Atlantic Firth Scottish Dance Band, and we play for lots of Scottish country dancing, which is a very disciplined style of dance. We play for strathspeys, for reels, and for jigs, and we play in and around the Ottawa area, and this is what we've been busy doing since we moved to Canada. We made the CD in 2024, so that came out just over a year ago, And then last year, in the Meridian Theatre Centre Point in Ottawa, we put on a Scottish show celebrating St Andrew, the patron saint of Scotland. And it was our idea, and Alistair said, yeah, let's take a chance, and it paid off. We had a great sellout show, and how many on stage, Alistair? 30 something. I think we invited about 25, but it was pretty popular. Yeah, with the dancers as well. We had the Scottish Country Dance Display Team, we had bagpipers, Highland dancers doing Highland choreography that we composed music for as well, and we had a fantastic night. Bobby Watts singing, and then our own Ceilidh band accompanied all the other acts, including the fiddle trio. So, yeah, what's next?
Yeah, another set of tunes, and well, some of the other works as you get to know us. You know, we're happy to be becoming part of the society here. Just looking forward to working with you all, and hopefully get to see some of you, meet some of you on our travels. We're planning a bit of a road trip over summer here in Canada, so I've been sort of working but now heading for retirement, so that's going to give us a bit of time to hopefully see some more of Canada. So really looking forward to seeing some more of the country. So
and we are going everywhere. We're starting off in Ottawa, and we're making our way over to Winnipeg. We're going to take a leisurely few days to get there. We're aiming to do a house concert there around mid-August, and then head out to the Canadian Grandmasters Fiddle Competition in Alberta, High River. But before that, we'll be passing through Regina, Saskatchewan, Lethbridge, Medicine Hat, you name it, where all the Scottish country dance clubs are. There's about 159 of them globally, and thousands of dancers all over. But we're going to end up in Vancouver. We've been in touch with some dancers there, hoping to bring a Ceilidh. So wherever you happen to be in Canada, we're open and willing to stopping by and paying you a visit. So do get out, get in touch. Atlantic Firth. Find us on Facebook, give us a like, give us a share, and follow us and keep in touch. And we'd love to do that. So we're going to play a set of reels now. The first tune, the Barburn reel, was composed also by Alistair's teacher, Addy Harper, and this is probably his most famous tune, I think, or his most widely known tune amongst musicians around the world. And it's a lovely rhythmic reel, and would be danced for what would it be? Strip the willow, ornate some reel. Thank you very much for listening. So that is one of our favourite tunes. We cannot stop dropping that in sessions here, there and everywhere. And yeah, so Alistair MacDonald, so obviously Clan MacDonald there, and I'm Karen Stephen, but my granny was a Mackay, so from the very far north coast of Scotland as well, but next door in the county of Sutherland. My granny grew up on a small island called Island Roan. And her family were first to leave back in 1937, I think, followed by all the other families from that island. So I'd like to say thank you to Bill at Scots of Canada for inviting our band to become members of your organisation, and we look forward to connecting with you over the coming months, and do reach out if you fancy a visit and some tunes on accordion and fiddle. We can even teach you as Kaylee dance. Get in touch and hopefully see you again at future events. Thank you.
Hi, Karen and Alistair. It's Rory Sinclair here.
Hey.
Oh, hi.
Oh, yeah.
It's a familiar sounding face.
Yeah. Well, we know each other very well. We played together down on the Southern States at one point, and
Yes.
also, I've been up in Caithness many times, knew Addie Harper, and now you moved to Canada, living in Petawawa, which is 15 miles from where I grew up in Deep River. So we're following each other around.
It's a small world in the music world, isn't it, Rory? You guys hearing us okay here?
Have we got a ropey
Can't hear.
connection again?
I'm on mute now. Yes. Yeah, now your sound is excellent. That's very good. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
The only problem I had was that you mentioned me dancing, and my wife heard that, which gives her ideas.
That would warm you up on a cold day. Yeah, we decided to make the recording just in case we didn't get back from Ottawa. We've had quite a busy weekend. We were up very late last night playing for the 60th anniversary of the Royal Scottish Country Dancers in Ottawa. So that ran on, and we got to bed about 1 o'clock this morning, and then back up this morning for Parliament Hill, Ottawa, to celebrate Tartan Day there, and had a jam, and I think it was 5 or 6 degrees. It was pretty rough on the fiddle. I didn't bother tuning up because it was going out of tune all the time anyway. So we did a live performance, and then got away a little bit early and came back up to do this. And the vocals usually on these connections are great, but as soon as you start bringing in instrumental music, there's certain settings that seem to work and others that don't. So making the recording was a safe bet. I just had an audition a few days ago for the Royal Edinburgh Military Tattoo fiddle band. Amazed to say they've accepted me, but we had to turn off the Zoom and switch on to Facebook Messenger to get a decent sound quality. So yeah, it's a little concerning when it comes to instruments and Zoom calls, but I'm glad the video worked out and we were able to hear it okay. That was recorded on a camcorder, a video camera, like a very nice one. And then the picture and the sound dubbing are a little bit out because we have no control over that after it's made, but the sound was pretty sharp. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that taste of Caithness, very Scottish music.
Well, one of the things, I think there is something, and I don't know if you know about it, but Rory knows about this. We did find that there is a setting in Zoom to permit instruments, and you definitely have to turn that on for bagpipes because Zoom hates bagpipes, right, Rory?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's sound suppression. Almost all Zooms and these things are suppressed because they don't want outside sound, and they give you about an inch from your mic. And then outside that, they don't want it. So any instrument, including a guitar, will be suppressed. So you have to click that on.
Yeah, during COVID, I gave an online workshop, and the lady in Seattle who was hosting had given me some training on what settings to select beforehand, and we tested it, and it was absolutely amazing. But it seems to just default to the factory settings every time. So because I'm not using it all the time, I've sort of forgotten what to do. But we can maybe look into that for future.
Well, and there's another thing that I found recently, which is Windows in the recent updates with 11 has gone and hijacked some things with regards to sound settings. And if you go and check with Google and that, it'll tell you how to turn that off. Basically, say to Windows, leave the stuff alone. You don't know what you're doing. I had to do that for doing streaming from the church, etc. Just go and turn it off and all kinds of stuff. It went and disabled an audio driver at one point for some reason.
Yeah.
But Windows, but that's another thing in Windows is to get into the internal, is to go and just ask, how do I stop Windows from interfering with my sound settings? And it's almost a hidden setting. So, but that's excellent.
Yeah, a little bit of homework to do. So like obviously like the Atlantic Firth band is a 4-piece band. We have a piano player and guitarist, and there's only 2 here today, and you just heard 2 there. Alistair and I live in Petawawa. The other 2 live in Ottawa. So it's easy for us to just like turn on the camera and say, right, let's do this, and this, and do the duo thing. We go out as a 2-piece, 3 or 4, depending on who wants to hear the band and the size of the venue and the crowd, etc. But we are normally a 4-piece, and there's 4 of us on the CD that we made.
Well, it sounded excellent. Karen, would you like to tell us a little bit about the contest that you're going to be, or the festival that you're going to be playing in that we're helping you out with?
So the event is called NAFCO, and it stands for North Atlantic Fiddle Convention. There's about 32 countries in the North Atlantic region, and this festival started 25 years ago in Scotland and Aberdeen, and it doesn't run every year. It was approximately every 5 or so years, and it's moved around to places in Ireland, Canada, and some of the Scandinavian countries as well, but it's come back to Scotland on 2 or 3 occasions. I played in 2006 and 2016. And then this year I've been invited back again. So, and then Alistair's going to accompany me for a recital in one of the lunchtime concerts. And I've been asked to teach a fiddle workshop and to play for a dance workshop. So there's a Swedish academic dance enthusiast, Mats Millen. He's a former lecturer at University of Limerick in Ireland. So he's going to be teaching a workshop along with Jen Schoonover, who I think is from Boston. And they're jointly doing a dance workshop, and they're doing the Dusty Miller and the Earl of Earl. I'm not sure if we've got any listeners on who are familiar with these old Scottish country dances. There's thousands of them. So yes, I'm teaching fiddle, playing for a dance workshop. We're doing a half-hour recital one lunchtime, and we're doing some outreach work as well, where we go out to the care homes in Aberdeen City and bring the ceilidh to the elderly, the infirm, and immobile who can't actually get out to the public events. And that's happening at the end of June. It's a 5-day festival. And yeah, we're excited to be going over there.
You're on mute, I think.
Yeah, I'm also trying to check the chat to see if there's anything in it, and I'm hitting the wrong button and having video players pop up. If there are any other questions from people and certainly, why don't you send some links for the videos? Now that I know how to embed videos on the web pages, I can actually put a video of the band on that web page, because that's what I'm doing with streaming. So if you send that link, we'll put that in, and then people can actually watch just going to that page.
Yeah, maybe we can trim the whole recording down into 3 just individual instrumental pieces and cut out the chat. We could maybe supplement the chat on like a text introduction, but then just keep the video to the music, perhaps. We have made like quite a lot of other recordings, but right now the server at home is quite full up, so we've got some logistical challenges to figure out, and then we can do lots more of this sort of thing. But yeah, we're up for that. And if someone has a particular tune that they like, or they remember, or they've heard, or a family member plays, and you want to know how do the Scots do it, and just keep in touch. Anything at all, anytime. Find us on Facebook, Alistair MacDonald, ALASTAIR, Mac Donald, MEC, and I'm Karen Stephen with a B. Atlantic Firth, we're on Facebook. Contact us any way you can and keep a dialogue going. Yeah, we are doing this massive trip over to Vancouver via Regina, and then along Lethbridge, Calgary, then west to Vancouver, coming back via Canmore, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, but it's the northern part. Yorkton, I think, might be up there, and then back down into Winnipeg. So that's mid-August to mid-September, roughly. we're heading out. So if you're on that sort of map route, we haven't got fixed dates for some of where we're going to be. If you fancy a house concert, or if you're a musician and you want to meet for tunes, you know, we're open and willing to meet like-minded people, jam session, teach workshops, teach step dancing, Ceilidh dancing, you name it. We were in Los Angeles a couple of weeks ago and just called on a friend that I met in 1988, and we ended up dropping into Scottish Fiddlers of Los Angeles and giving them some Scottish tips on techniques, bowings. Alistair took 6 accordion players that were in the group and coached them on their material. Their concert was last night as well, and it's great fun just to get on and do it. Yeah, we're pretty proactive people, as you can probably guess. But yeah, it's nice to see so many faces. We hope to get to know you over the coming months and share connections, and maybe see you at Glengarry Highland Games. We're booked in for that. We missed the electric hookup camping spot this year, but so we'll have hot water, electricity, comfy beds, and yeah, we'll come and look out for you there if you're attending.
Well, Glengarry, the hookup never happens. And the inside word is that, you know, it's basically the inside group that gets it anyways. So we always show up with the full equipped camper. I'm going to put up your web page on our site that people can go to get in touch.
Yeah, that's our yeah, you'll see that's my own personal website from when I was living in Scotland, and then the contact details through Facebook as well. Yeah, 2 years ago I made, I think it was 235 calls to get the second electric hookup spot. So it wasn't you're only in that's inside. I got the second spot and made 235 repeat calls to get through.
Oh, I've sat on it and banged and banged and banged and banged and banged.
This year we actually forgot. You know, it was lunchtime on the 1st of April. Too late.
No point in trying.
Well, we always succeed in getting something in Fergus. Thank goodness in the quiet spot.
Okay.
Set up for that, but in the end we get there on Thursday to Glengarry, and then we pack up at the end of the day on Saturday and go to Montreal anyways. So
yeah, yeah, you'll definitely be doing that this year. It's happening. So
yep,
sounds good.
Well,
we're
excellent.
actually going up there next on Thursday. We're going up to Montreal. There's a big sound. How would you describe it? Alistair's very into his electronics engineering, sound engineering, and so on. And there's a big event on that Alistair's signed us up to.
Yeah.
In Montreal.
Excellent. Well, thank you again. I'm going to stop my share and hand the reins over to. I'm going to spotlight you. Replace the spotlight. I'm going to spotlight Emily for this.
No worries. Shall I do the introduction? Charles, are you with us?
I'm not finding Charles. Is it Charles? Charles Grant. Yeah.
Charles Grant's there.
Can you hear us, Charles?
Sound's working. What?
Charles in the chat is saying that he's not hearing the discussion and sound went off halfway through Jim's talk. So I wonder if Charles is having a problem with his system.
Yeah, because no one else is. Oh, you're
No,
back.
it's okay. I've got it back.
Oh,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Marvelous.
Woo. Okay, well, I'll start the introductions now we know you're definitely there. So, yeah, I'm delighted to introduce Charles, or Chip Grant, whose life reflects a deep commitment to service, community, and clan heritage. So, born in Angus, Charles began his career at just 16 years old when he joined the Royal Marines as a junior entry. And after his military service, he went on to establish his own independent outdoor clothing and equipment business in the late 90s, which he ran successfully with his wife, Barbara, for many years. Charles's connection to clan life began in 1999 when he responded to a call from Sir Patrick Grant and joined the Clan Grant Society. His dedication was quickly recognised and he was soon appointed Parade Marshal. Following the sale of the business in 2016, Charles took on the role of port controller at a busy harbour before retiring in 2022. And since then, he's devoted even more time to the Clan Grant Society, where he now serves as vice chair and standard bearer to the chief. A highlight of his clan involvement was organising a memorable gathering in Rome in 2016, bringing together members from across the world and creating lasting connections with the Clan Grant community. So I'll hand over to you now, Charles.
Thank you, Emily. Much appreciated. Well, good afternoon to you people, and it's good evening from here. Right, today I'm just going to talk about the Clan Grant connections to Canada. Our new chief, Sir Michael Grant of Grant, Baronet of Nova Scotia, Lord Strathspey, is keen to see a revival of the Clan Grant Society in Canada. I know there are moves afoot, and Michael will probably update us when we have our next Zoom meeting. But to this end, I'm going to give you a snapshot of how the connection started and progressed through the years. Jim took a little bit of the Mononymous Reliquary. I'll give you a little snapshot of that at the end. So, how did the Grant connection start with Canada? Well, it starts with Cuthbert Grant Sr., a manager of the Northwest Company, who married a Métis lady. Her name was Margaret Utanawasis. From that union, Cuthbert Grant Jr. was born in 1793. Cuthbert Grant Sr. died in 1799, but not before appointing William McGilvray, a colleague in the Northwest Company, to be his son's guardian. William took him to be educated in Montreal, and in 1812, he joined the Northwest Company as a clerk for the Upper Red River District. In 1814, he arrived at Fort Esperance, where the feud between the Northwest Company and Hudson Bay Company was ongoing, and this was to the disadvantage of the Métis. Lord Selkirk, a director of the Hudson Bay Company, had erected a village in the Red River Valley, and this denied passage to the Northwest Company and the Métis from transporting their pemmican and bison heads up to their canoe brigades at Lake Winnipeg. Grant was subsequently appointed by the Northwest Company as a Captain General of the Métis, partly due to his heritage. In the ongoing feud, and because others joined in the fray, other Métis clans, the colony at Red River was soon evacuated. During that time, tensions remained high, and this became known as the Pemmican Wars. In 1816, a group of the some 60 Métis from various tribes was led by Grant over the Frog Plain to deliver pemmican to the Northwest Canoe tribes on Lake Winnipeg. They were met by Robert Semple of the Hudson Bay Company and his men. And at the end of a bloody skirmish, Robert Semple and 20 of his men lay dead, with only one Métis killed and several injured. Grant was then accused of assassination, taken to court, and accused of murder, etc., etc., etc. But all charges were dropped and he was acquitted. This skirmish came to be known as the Battle of Seven Oaks, which established Grant as a Métis leader. In 1821, the wars had ended and the Northwest Company was assimilated into the Hudson Bay Company, and they all became one company. The Hudson Bay Company recognized that Grant was pivotal in dealing with the Métis, and they used him to this end. Hudson Bay Company Governor, Sir George Simpson, requested that Grant establish a Métis settlement west of the Red River Colony. This came to be known as Grantown, with some 2,000 inhabitants. It is still there, but is now called St. Francis Xavier. Other appointments followed Grant, and in 1828 he was made a Warden of the Plains. In 1835 he was a Judge of the Peace. Now you have to forgive me on this one. Assiniboia, 4th District. In 1839 he joined the Council of Assiniboia. Am I saying that right? Does anybody know? But as in all things pass.
Assiniboine.
Assiniboine, there we go. Where I picked it up from, it's got an S on the end of it. As in all things, a younger generation of French-speaking Métis, led by Jean-Louis Riel, took over from the Scottish Métis, people like Grant who have Scottish ancestry. And Grant soon departed and died in 1854. But Grant was accredited with giving the Métis nation a sense of a homeland, and by 1885 they had a true sense of who they were. And in 1972 he was designated a National Historic Person by the then Canadian government. In 2012, Chief of Clan Grant, Sir James Grant, with his partner Julie Lewis, went across a visit Canada and to officially declare Cuthbert Grant a member of Clan Grant, thereby establishing Shilkudbury, which means the seed of Grant, or the seed of Cuthbert, as a sept of the Clan Grant, which entitled them to call themselves members of Clan Grant. Now, Cuthbert himself was married 3 times. He was first married to Elizabeth Mackay, who had 1 son. Their whereabouts were unknown because due to his absence when he was accused of assassination, when he returned, they had disappeared. He then married, I think it's a marriage de la façon de pays, a marriage of convenience, to Marie Desmarais, or Desmarais, and they had 1 daughter, Maria. She went on to marry somebody else. He then married Maria McGillis, and they had 11 children. And she is buried in St. Francois Xavier. From that, you can probably deduce that there'd be many offspring from Cuthbert Grant, or his descendants. And some of them will actually be living today. Now, another connection to Canada comes in 1885, when the last spike on the Canadian Pacific Railway was driven in by Donald Alexander Smith at a place called Craigellachie. As many of you will know, Craigellachie is the motto of the Clan Grant, stand fast. It was driven in by Donald Alexander Smith. So who was he? He was Lord Strathcona, Governor of the Hudson Bay Company, President of the Bank of Montreal, a Member of Parliament, a founding member of the Canadian Pacific Railway, and a Commissioner to Great Britain, and also founder of Strathcona Horse, a unit which is still in existence today in today's Canadian Army. And he was a Grant. The other Grant involved in the building of the Canadian Pacific Railway is George Stephen, later Lord Mount Royal. And he and Simpson were first cousins from Speyside, which is why when the last spike was driven in at Craigellachie between Revelstoke and Sycamus, Smith sent the one-word telegram to George Stephen, Craigellachie. He also put the time, the date, and all the rest of it. Now, some of you, well, most of you will be familiar with, can you see that photograph? That's a facsimile of the photograph of the spike being driven in. The guy doing it is Smith himself. So James came back with the ubiquitous golden spike bought at the gift shop at Craigellachie, or Sycamus, I think it is. When Smith drove the spike in on the railway, the last spike in, he actually bent the first spike he tried. And that spike is now in the National Museum of Science and Technology. There's a big gap then with the connections until 2012 when James visited the Meti. I already talked about that. So in 2016, as Emily said, we had a visit to Rome. 21 grants from all over the world came to Rome, from far as away Australia, Canada, California, England, Scotland, and I think there was one from Spain. We were hosted as well by Vittoria and Christina Cafassi. They helped organise the visits there. One of the visits was to the Trastevere Rowing Club, founded by William Grant. We were also guests of the Rome Caledonian Society, where I think Karen would have been well at home there because much country dancing. There were 8 Canadian grants present there. The 4 men came up absolutely resplendent in full Highland dress. They were photographed everywhere they went. And this visit has never been repeated. And sadly, it was the last holiday that Sir James and his partner Judy had. A sad day. Now, Jim talked a bit about the Monymusk reliquary. I'm sorry, I'm not pausing for any questions or anything like that at the moment because really it's research you can actually, I'll give you snapshots, research you can do yourself into that sort of thing. And just to give you pointers. The reliquary. The reliquary is believed to have been created or crafted by the monks of Iona in around 750 AD. Over the centuries, it has been altered, added to, little bits put on, all the rest of it. There's still one piece missing at the end. But for something that old, it's not unusual. It's mainly made of yew and is covered in silver and bronze plates and decorated in semi-precious stones. The semi-precious stones are set into the plates and the top of the handle. Legend has it that Robert the Bruce's army carried out the Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. This was due to it being identified as the Brech Bannock on St. Columba. This, however, has not been proven. But it was still viewed as a sacred battle standard by the Scots, and it was probably carried in a battle or two. So how did it come into the possession of the Grants, and why is it called the reliquary, Monymusk reliquary? Well, in the 16th century, it was owned by the Forbes family, who had bought the Monymusk estate. When the Forbes family went bankrupt, the estate was sold by Sir William Forbes. Prior to that, it is thought that the reliquary was held by the Uri family or the Hurry family until the late 16th century at Pitfichy Castle. Sir John Forbes, the 3rd Baronet, received the Crown Charter of Pitfichy and gave it to his eldest son from his second marriage. It was then passed to the eldest stepbrother, Sir William Forbes, who had been the 4th Baronet, and it was he who sold the estate to the Grants. The Grants built up the estate, but and they built the Monymusk house, which you see now. I see the reliquary there. And part of the Monymusk house was actually built by stones taken from the Augustine Priory, which had sat there for 300 years. But in 1933, the reliquary was put up for auction. Now, this caused a wee bit of a stramash, as we say in Scotland, because the people in Scotland were up in arms about this most precious reliquary. It was only second to the crown, the honours of Scotland. So it was a very important Scottish treasure. Eventually, it was saved for the nation and now resides in the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh. So much has been written about the reliquary. Some folklore, some conjecture, some true. But by doing research, you alone can decide. And Jim has already alluded to it, but there's a connection to our growth as well, where William the Lion, King of Scotland, gave to the monks of the Abbey for safekeeping in 1211. So, what happened to it between 1211 and when the Urries had it? As Jim was saying, the monks were very fond of getting their cash and their money in. They may have flogged it to the Urries. Folks, that's about as much as I can say about that there. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask.
Oh, Sylvie's clapping there. I'm keeping an eye on the chat, so feel free to pop any questions in.
As I said, Emily, it was just a snapshot and give you something at a time. I'm actually sitting in a half-finished office with everything offline and all the rest of it. I'm doing this on an iPad, which is not the best way to do it, but otherwise I'd have more bits and pieces to show you.
No, that's perfect.
Well, definitely this is the basis for a fantastic article, and or another session for us to share with all of Scots of Canada and the readership. It's very, very fascinating. I mean, the first thing that comes to mind with me is that this is our Ark of the Covenant. It seems something like that. That's what it looks like, and like this is the first I've heard of it, which is amazing, just absolutely amazing that it's not as well known as it should be.
Yes, it's a pity about that. Sir Archibald Grant, Archie, he's a good friend of mine. Him and his wife Fiona. Archie is not too well at the moment. I think he's got some lung condition caused by farming. He's never smoked anything in his life, but it's through the farmyard and working that sort of system that he's got this lung condition. But his daughter Katrina, 80, is taking over. She has done a remarkable job about the history of Monymusk. I'm going to try and get her to put it on the Clan website. In fact, we're going to get it on the Clan website so people can go into the Clan Grant website and see what she's actually done. I'm trying to persuade Archie, and I'll be talking to Emily about this, for Archie to come and give a complete history of the Monymusk reliquary, because it was his relations, his ancestors, that sold the thing. In fact, I think it was his father that sold it. So that might be a good interest here. The other thing I've got there is if anybody's coming across to Scotland in August, the second week of August, always the second weekend in August, is the Nethy Bridge Games, and it's the Clan Grant Gathering. You'll be made most welcome. We're wee dram in the tent.
Can't go wrong with a wee jam.
No.
We've got a question from John Duff, who asks, what is the early history of Clan Grant and who was the early ancestor?
early history of Clan Grant. My God, it
Putting you on the
goes
spot
back.
here.
That's a good question, well presented. It goes back to the Vikings, and in fact, one of our clan members his DNA relates to Attila the Hun. So we have a Norman ancestry, French Norman ancestry. The Bizets come to mind. There's such a huge conjecture about all this. There's a lot of people where we actually came from. So I only go back as far as the 33rd Baronet. Before that was the Seafields, Ella Seafield and all the rest of it. But it's handed down the line and all the rest of it because they had a female line. It wasn't handed down. Went across to the Moneymusk. Oh, believe you me, I will get someone to actually put on your website a complete answer to that question, because I cannot really say it without any authority. I'm sorry, John.
Like I say, putting you on the spot there. Any other questions?
Did everybody know about the Pemmican Wars? Did you know about that?
I don't think we know enough. And I think there's a lot of, I've been told, and I'm thinking maybe Rory was one that mentioned this to me, but I know I have been mentioned that there was a great affinity between the warrior spirit that the Scots showed up with and the Aboriginals. And that's why the integration of the Métis was not, shouldn't have been a surprise of like the Métis arising, because of how well, in terms of kindred spirits, the Scots who were showing up as traders with the Northwest and with Hudson's Bay and so on, how they got along with the Aboriginals.
Well, after the 1745, a lot of the Scots were fought on the Jacobite side, including the Grants of Glenmoriston, were sent across to the colonies as indentured servants, but they're slaves, basically. There's another one, Ludovic Grant, who married a Cherokee princess of the Long Hair clan. And in the 2010 gathering at Nethy Bridge, we had 40 Cherokees attending the games.
Wow.
So it's not unusual. In 1823, Cuthbert married Mary McGillis, the daughter of Angus McGillis, and an Aboriginal woman named Marguerite. So there you go. And the Métis, do you know what Métis stands for? Do you know what it is?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes.
It means mixed race.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So the Métis integrated with, the Scots, the French, etc. But they mixed races. They called themselves, the ladies, when the men went away and do their hunting and all the rest of it, the ladies divided themselves into two camps, country wives and city wives. The country wives were the native Métis. The city wives were who Métis men had married. So there's all sorts of things like that.
I hadn't heard of the Pemmican. Sorry, I hadn't heard of the Pemmican War as such, but I do know there's great animosity between the Northwest Company and the Hudson's Bay Company over territory. And there was one point where the Northwest Company came in around Fort Edmonton, and for about 30 miles or so surrounding it, they hunted out everything to try to starve the fort out. So, and then a few of the trappers from the Northwest were captured and brought into Fort Edmonton for trial before the factor of Hudson's Bay there. Interesting history. I like the tie-in with the railroad. I've been to the site of the last spike. It's a nice little historic area there.
There was one other question from John, who said, "Were the grants involved with the Northwest Rebellion involving Louis Riel?"
Yes. The North in I think that's 1886. That was off the top of my head. Jean Louis, his father, Louis Riel was the son. Jean Louis was the father, and it was the father who started all that. Then the son was the son that usurped Cuthbert Grant out of the way there. So that's part of that.
Well, I think you cut out just for a part of that. Check.
Louis Riel was the guy who booted Cuthbert Grant out of the way. So Cuthbert Grant left because of Louis Riel.
Ah, there we go. I think that's all the questions in the chat.
Good.
Well, thank you very much, Emily and Chick. It's fantastic. I think there's lots more for us. You've gone and sparked a lot of things we can end up talking about, the Métis and the grants and
well, that was the
and other
to
stuff
get you
going
talking
on.
about it. Yeah,
that was wonderful. I did have in having a concern about us having enough to fill. I did ask people to provide some input. Emily, I think you talked about the tartan thing earlier on, correct? I'm not sure. No. Well, I'm gonna put you on the spot. Literally, I'm gonna spotlight you, and and get you to explain to everybody what the wonderful thing going on with the Tartan Day Parade in May that we can't get to.
Yeah.
But and also about the Global Tartan Network.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, thanks for putting me on the spot, Bill. But you had pre-warned me that this might happen, so that's all good. So I should probably explain why I'm involved with Scots of Canada. So my day job is for Scotland Shop, and as part of that, we've come and hosted a vendor tent at many of the Highland Games across Ontario. In particular, and obviously a large part of what we do is interacting with the clans. We have clan partnerships and work with many of the societies, obviously selling many of the clan tartans. So that's kind of how I got involved in the world of Scots of Canada. And I suppose through that kind of repeat trips to North America, built up a network there and just saw how kind of strong the diaspora network is. And it's actually through a connection in New York for the New York City Tartan Week, and a conversation about how well celebrated the Scottish heritage and this particularly Tartan Day is in North America, and how little it is actually known about and celebrated here in Scotland. And through a kind of flippant comment in an email, this contact in New York put me in touch with someone only an hour up the road from where I am. So I'm in the southeast of Scotland, there in Edinburgh, who I guess had a similar thought of, well, it's celebrated so well in North America. Why aren't we actually celebrating tartan and our own kind of story here in Scotland? So last year we hosted the inaugural Edinburgh Tartan Parade. So it was held in May, so the second Saturday of May. So it's not on Tartan Day as such. Obviously, over in Australia and New Zealand, they celebrate International Tartan Day on the 1st of July, and Melbourne have a large tartan festival as well. And I suppose we wanted to kind of pick a date that slotted somewhere in between so that we could have the opportunity for people to travel beyond just one of the parades, so that they didn't have to choose between Scotland and New York. So at the moment, some of the other organisers are actually over in New York, or otherwise they may have been able to do this part of the talking for me. And so, yeah, inspired by all the celebrations that have gone on. And last year in Edinburgh, it was the 900th anniversary celebrations of the city. So that's why we chose that to be the inaugural year. So I guess in a similar format to New York, it brings together clan societies. It brings together many pipe bands. So I think this year we'll have over 20 pipe bands. So you can imagine how noisy that's going to be. The Heraldry Society of Scotland, the Court of the Lord Lion will be there. The Lord Provost kicks everything off by kind of making a proclamation from the Mercat Cross. So many of you, I'm sure, will know Edinburgh. So just by St Giles Cathedral is the Mercat Cross and Edinburgh City Chambers. So that's the start for the parade. We try to go from the old town of Edinburgh into the new town. So come down Coburn Street, so a nice cobbled, windy street, over Waverley Bridge, so by the train station, and then turn into East Princes Street Gardens, past the Scott Monument. And of course, Scott was one of the main reasons that Tartan had its revival in the Victorian era. So we've got him to thank for a lot of this. And then carry on to the National Galleries of Scotland. So it's also known as the Mound Precinct. And then we have a free ceilidh in the Ross Bandstand, so part of Princes Street Gardens, in the afternoon, and then go on to have a celebration concert at the Usher Hall in the evening. So this year we'll have the Red Hot Chili Pipers and Ali the Piper travelling over from the US. So, like I say, it's really just kind of a celebration of the fact that Scotland is so well loved and celebrated, maybe a bit of a homecoming for people who do live abroad who want to come back to be part of the celebration. And I suppose, as well as that international element of it, which is of huge importance, it's also just kind of shining a light on some of the local community groups and local pipe bands who maybe wouldn't have opportunities otherwise. So at that celebration concert at the Usher Hall, we'll have 2 youth pipe bands who will come on stage alongside the Red Hot Chili Pipers. So last year, one of the youth bands was Caithness Pipe Band, so the most northerly youth pipe band in Scotland. Karen, you'll kind of be used to that sort of region, being up in Wick. So yeah, like I say, just a real celebration of Scotland and the best of what we do, really. So as we've been saying in some of these other presentations, if you are here in Scotland in May, then second Saturday of May is scheduled to be the parade going forward. Last year was fantastic with over 1,600 participants. This year we've upped it to 2,500, and that's us putting a cap on it just to allow it to grow steadily, not become too large too soon. So we've got a large wait list, and it's a shame to not be able to accept everyone, but just to keep an event of this scale manageable. So yeah, we just hope to continue to see it grow and expand it into being more of a festival or week long celebration like they do in New York. And so I suppose as part of all of that, we're very conscious of the inspiration having come from National Tartan Day, which of course started in Canada and is, as we know, well celebrated in New York. So Tanya, who is one of the other 6 volunteers to put this event together, also wanted to kind of form what we're kind of naming the Global Tartan Network, which currently is trying to pull together ourselves here in Scotland, Scots of Canada through Bill, as well as the Melbourne Tartan Festival over in Australia and the guys in New York, just to kind of have a place to share what we're up to bounce ideas off each other. One of the discussions we had earlier this month was about the opportunity for young designers maybe to showcase their work between some of these events going on in the different countries, and just kind of programs and initiatives that might be running in these countries that we can kind of share resources for. So yeah, it's very early days. It's very informal, I suppose, at this stage. It's not kind of a society in its own right or anything like that. But yeah, I think there's exciting things to come, and certainly something I know Bill and I were speaking about is where there may not be this one large central parade in Canada, is just kind of making sure that maybe we as Scots of Canada can help the societies that we have within our network to be able to celebrate Tartan Day and kind of allow Canada to reclaim the fact that this is actually where it started. So yeah, again, any thoughts, ideas on what we can do to kind of flesh out a resource for local societies and groups to be able to celebrate across Canada are all well received. I think that's all I've got, but Bill, feel free to add to that.
I think the only thing I'm going to put a plug in for, well, I'm going to mention two things. One, I've got a great envy for Melbourne because they got kickstarted with a huge endowment. And that obviously has helped with regards to not only being able to fund some things that they do, but also being able to bring in people because they can do stuff. And hopefully we can get to that point someday with Scots of Canada as we grow. And you know, hint, if anybody's got any donation money sitting around, they can designate it for something like the Tartan Day. The other thing is you know, people have heard me say this before. It's persistent, pervasive promotion. So putting an article into our newsletter and just keep on reminding people we are the founders of Tartan Day and we do and who we are and so forth. So now I've got another article that somehow I have to get into the newsletter for that. But perhaps maybe not this coming newsletter, but the one after. Somebody will give us a report and some pictures from the National Tartan Day Parade in Scotland. That would be wonderful, right?
I'm sure I can help cover that. Yeah.
Now, sometimes it's nothing like envy. Hey, if they can do that, why can't we? That can be a
Well,
motivator. So
yeah, to be honest, yeah, it kind of sparked it. And as Jim said about, you know, politicians are all going over to New York to kind of promote these relations. Melbourne's not getting much of a spotlight, so anything we can do to kind of help share the spotlight, and likewise, if there's anything that we can do to help incoming trade to Scotland by having this event here, who knows if business kind of opportunities will kind of be sparked off the back of that. It's still only going to be our second year, so yeah, early days, but I think we did well to pull off an event of that scale. And yeah, just look forward to seeing where it leads us.
Awesome. We're past 2 hours, and what I'm going to do is just open the floor at this point. Thank you, Emily. I'm going to open the floor at this point. And Emily, I'm trying to get the spotlight off you, but my system's not cooperating. It is off? Okay.
I think I managed to turn it off myself.
There you go. I'm going to open the floor to anybody that has anything else that they'd like to mention or bring us up to date on what's happening. And other than that, it looks like we've had I think this has been a fantastic meeting. Many thanks to the presenters, and onward. And the last thing that we need to do, and there you go, I'm forgetting stuff again. I'm going to launch a poll, if I can find the button, and ask people to fill that out because I'm not confident that the survey is going to happen. So I'm going to ask people to fill out the poll. We'll give a few minutes for that, maybe 5 minutes. I'll look for pretty much. I don't think it's very complicated to fill out. And if you do end up getting the same thing showing up with the survey, just ignore it, just leave, and we'll take it from there. I'll come back and let you know. I won't give a report on the poll right away. I'm going to send that out as an email to everybody. Or there's another article for the newsletter. So here comes the poll.
Yeah. Oh,
Anne, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, quick question, Emily. Anne from Clan Cameron. Is there any chance that we can watch the parade here in North America on
That's
May
a good
8th?
Yeah, good question. So last year we did have someone live stream it and they walked down with the parade, but I think a lot of the comments was it was quite overstimulating moving with the parade. So what we're going to try to look to do is, again, somewhat similar to New York, we'll have Lothian buses donate us a double-decker bus, which is wrapped in tartan, which will be on Waverley Bridge. and we'll have Gail Porter is going to be our MC, announcing the groups as they come. So what I'm hoping is that we can set up a live stream from that bus. So the best thing to have a look on would be Tartan Parade Scotland on the Facebook page. So that's where there's obviously updates on there. And yeah, if we are able to get that to go live, then that's where that will be hosted.
Thank
But
you.
I will make sure that the rest of the team know that there are people wanting to watch. So yeah, I mentioned obviously that we do have some clans marching, as well as the Heraldry Society and the Court of the Lord Lion. But what I didn't mention was that we have, I think it currently stands at about 35 to 40 of the Standing Council of Scottish Chiefs also due to march. So that's fantastic. There was about maybe 10 or so of them last year, but yeah, great to see more of the chiefs able to attend this year.
Emily, Michael Grant, Chief of Clan Grant, will be in opening of games, I think it's in Melbourne this summer. Is there anything you want to take across to Melbourne?
Oh.
Any message?
I'll get back to you on that one for sure.
No problem.
Yeah.
It'd be great if they can put it to YouTube, because the reason why we were streaming to Facebook, but then people had to be part of Facebook. And of course, the trend is the younger people are not. So that's why I said, why don't we just put it to YouTube? Everybody can access that, especially if you don't say that it's kiddie contents or something like that. And it can be seen through a website. So if they can look at doing that, or if they want to contact me for ways of doing that, if they're going to go through Zoom, I can help out with regards to that.
Perfect. Yeah.
Facilitate it. So, all right.
Yeah, no, that's a good shout on YouTube. Yeah. Just in the next month, there's going to be a lot of these little bits and pieces to get organized. But now that we've done it once, we know what we're doing. Yeah. So it's a lot easier to do it a second time.
Well, it's like this session. I remember the first Zoom that we tried to do during COVID, and it was panic. It was everything was unknown, and we learned and learned and learned. But nowadays, it seems to be, except for me continuing to forget things, it seems to be a lot easier and smoother, and that's what we're going to find is happening with our Tartan Day initiatives.
Perfect. I don't know if it's just me, but for me, it's showing the poll as having ended.
I started it and then actually restarted it, and I wanted to keep talking. Wanted you to keep talking and answering.
Oh, sorry. Wow.
So I ended up. So I'm gonna launch it again. If we're good, if everybody's good for this, we're good. I'll
co-host, you can't participate.
I think I asked for everybody to be able to participate in the poll or survey. So you might get the survey. If you're a co-host of that, you might not see this. Sorry. I'll have to talk to you separately. But I'm going to launch the poll now. All right? There we go. Are you seeing the poll?
Yes.
Yay.
So, Bill, if this is a good time, I'd like to share. So, I've been nominated as the head of the committee for clans for the Calgary Highland Games. So, I just wanted to let everyone know that this is new this year. It's the old crew from like 30 years ago when they were actually running really great games. And we are back with what's hopefully going to be kind of setting the standards. So if you're going to be in Calgary around July 4th and 5th,
please look up for the Calgary Highland Games. It promises to be a really great event.
Do you have a venue?
It's going to be held down at Spruce Meadows in South Calgary.
Okay.
They've designated us a large field with some nice trees. You and I can talk a bit more, Paul, via email. I'll need your help to reach out to the clans.
Perfect.
But yeah, I've got a kind of a rough schedule email going that I'll need to reach out to everyone. But I want to just let everyone know that we're back and we're doing it right.
Clan Buchanan will be there.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Paul.
Scott, here's my pitch. The best way for you to get in touch with all of the clans who are members, and even more, is to become part of Scots of Canada. So
yeah, they're aware.
Send an application form in, and you'll be in the next newsletter. You'll be in the next email update, and we will push and push and push. And you'll probably enjoy the kind of success that, like Sydney Mines joined, and within 2 months, they outstripped everybody in terms of people clicking on posters and visiting their website, visiting their webpage on our site. The interest was fantastic. And as a bootstrap, it's just the way to go.
Yeah,
and if you're obviously we're going to have a booth there if you're a member. That's the rule. You have to have a banner. That is the rule. If you're a member, we put something there. Even if we can't show up, but I have no doubt that Kirsten will show up.
Yeah, we've made recommendations for membership. They're just still getting, because we're very brand new. The society was just formed and the board elected like this week. So,
well, join the $50. We're very patient in terms of getting, and it's a membership until the end of our fiscal year next year.
I will keep pushing.
2027. Right?
It's on the to-do list to do.
It's a stupidly good deal.
Excuse me, Bill. When is
Yes.
the Calgary Games scheduled to run?
July 4th and 5th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're gonna print the banners, so.
Yep. Send us a logo as soon as you have it, Scott. We're gonna have we've got to make our new banners in time to send something out to Victoria, May 18th.
Will do.
May and I are going to have the banner made, and you're going to have some customers come from there, no doubt. Right? And that'll be a banner that'll travel around BC. I'm assuming it's, let's see if we have Chris, you're still here. We'll coordinate what happens with banners and that we send out west. We are up to 20 of 21 people have participated in the poll, and I'm glad to see that pretty much everybody said expectations met. Session length was good. Somebody wasn't happy with it, but that's fine. Most people didn't have any connectivity video issues, and we've got answers for, I can't see answers for things like the text in terms of, I can't see the text answers right now, but I'll have those show up, and we'll provide them we'll act on them and provide that as part of our report. And I'm going to end the poll at this point. It looks like we're done. Thank you very much, everyone. And on that basis, I'm going to say that unless there's more for people to say, we're done. This is like the perfect between the 2 to 2.5 hours I was kind of predicting. So again, thank you very much. Very encouraging, and looking forward to the next session, and looking forward to all the wonderful contributions for the newsletter, and seeing as many of you as I can at the Highland Games and that we're going to be going to. On that note,
Good Sunday.
have a good Sunday.
Take care. Have a good Sunday, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
I think we're ordering A and